One of the questions I've been asked most by my friends and family in the last 2 years, 4 years, probably 5 years even, is why have you not gone to college, Chris? Why have you not gone to college? I'm going to lay out what I hope will be the introduction to another full-length book right here, much in the way that my defensive hate has become something much larger after I did that introductory video. So as I understand it, there's three main, good, solid reasons to attend university. And I'm going to try to lay those out and explain why, despite my proclivity and interest and talent and ability to succeed in higher education, I opted not to do that, not to complete my degree, to begrudgingly accept a 2-year degree of which I'm not particularly proud. I'm no more proud of that than I am of being a truck driver or carpenter, arguably less than being a carpenter, actually. And I'll try to explain after I make the arguments for education. So there's three good arguments for education, and I think not the first argument that people go for, but the one of the better reasons for it, and one of the reasons that attracted me to it originally, was that it improves yourself. It makes your head a more interesting place to live in, as one of my uncles likes to say. You learn all about interesting subjects that make your journey through the world more interesting. You see more. It's like it's like putting on 3D glasses before going into a movie theater. You see a new dimension to a lot of the things that you're interacting with. And since you're going to be occupying your head for quite a bit of time in your life, it makes sense to make it a more interesting place to live. The second reason, and this is the go-to reason that people like to give for going to college, is that it opens up all sorts of financial and career opportunities for you. And even if it doesn't, it gives you a boosted credibility that you otherwise wouldn't have. It looks very good to most people to have a college degree. And number three, it surrounds you, and this is a subtle one, but really an important one once you start delving into the subject. Why should you go to college? It surrounds you with other people who are intelligent, who are driven on the same career path as you, who share some interests in learning matters. And it surrounds you with role models, teachers and academics who can help you not just learn the subject matter, but also in the networking process. They have contacts oftentimes in the field. If you're in marketing, they'll know companies that are hiring marketers. If you're in education, well, they know schools, and they know administrators who would like your particular style of teaching, or on this subject or that, or they know some opening over here for that law firm once you get through law school. They have the networking. So it's the people. In other words, it's the self, the money, people. That's the basic argument, and the college experiences, loosely, number three. Now, I'll try to take these down in order and do it in a reasonable time frame, so I'm not doing my 30-minute video on Islam kind of thing. The first reason that makes your head an interesting place to live in, gives you access to all sorts of information and knowledge on particular subjects that you wouldn't have otherwise had access to, completely irrelevant in the 21st century. It might, you could make a case, have always been irrelevant. The access that we all have, at least in the United States, I don't know how it is in other countries, to public libraries is, there's nothing you can't really learn from the library. And now, the complaints about, the time it takes to go to a library and read a book, that's, that's already weak. If you aren't willing to do that, then what the hell are you doing going to college? But now you have the internet, so even laziness is no longer an excuse. I just finished one series and started another lecture series at work today as I was driving from job to job. It was on psychology of personality, taught by Jordan Peterson at the University of Toronto. Anyone has access to this. Anyone has access to the thousands of YouTube videos up on Stanford and Yale and Harvard and University of Toronto and all these schools have YouTube channels with thousands of videos of top tier courses that you can listen to and learn all this material for free. So the self-improvement, the knowledge itself is all there. So one is no longer an excuse. The reason to go to college for improving yourself is completely it simply doesn't apply anymore. Reason number 2, the financial and job opportunities. This one's a little bit trickier because in some ways you can still look at data and charts and say, oh look, your job prospects in certain fields go up if you have a college degree, and you know, certain jobs you need a college degree essentially to get into. What I would argue is that this might not be true in 5 to 10 years, because for a number of reasons. First of all, and it must be mentioned, college debt is unbelievable. It was straight up criminal a few years ago. Now I believe the law has changed since then. I believe it is now legal to declare bankruptcy to get out of student loan debt. That used to not be the case. It used to be, and I believe in Canada it still is, the only kind of debt that you cannot escape, period. And they're encouraging you to get into this. And there's something like just millions and millions and millions of dollars of cumulative student loan debt. And what are these degrees going towards? Well, they're going towards a lot of degrees like gender studies, like sociology, like English, just a bunch of nonsense degrees that don't prepare you for any real job out there at all. I was preparing to go for a journalism degree when I was in school, and upon a little bit of research, thanks to the internet, to return to point 1, I found out that only 50% of the people who got journalism degrees actually got jobs as journalists. And a slightly, subtly different data point, only 50% of actual journalists had degrees in journalism. So it's, and you can't avoid making this point, the most common piece of advice that journalist organizations gave their new hires was, forget everything you learned in college. You're going to do it our way now. Nothing you learned applies at all. Well, that's a big fat waste of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 per year, depending on where you go. That's not true in certain fields, obviously. If you're going into engineering, if you're going into law, if you're going into medicine, it still can make financial sense at the moment to do these things. But you have to look at a few other points here as well. The quality of the education itself is diminishing. This is because they're bringing more people in, and they can't just fail everybody, or else it's not very good customer relations, you could say, to just fail everybody. So what they have to do is what they're doing in the Marines and the military. When they bring in women, they have to lower standards as they bring in more people who would otherwise not have been inclined to go to college, who are just not, I hate to say it, but not designed for it. Some of us are not built to do this. I will never be a professional basketball player as a function of genetics, right? Many of us are just not cut out to be college material, and maybe that's genetic, maybe that's disposition, maybe it's interest. Maybe I'm really, really smart. I'm just not interested in math. I would rather be an award-winning chef, and I'll go to culinary school. Perfectly fine. Completely legitimate path. But no, I'm told I have to go to college. Well, in order to accommodate me, we have to diminish the standards for young Newton over here. So the quality of the education is going down, and because I'm getting a degree to be culinary artist, now I have a bachelor's degree, maybe I have a master's degree in anthropology related to food or something, who knows. Well, what does that do to all these other people who've got master's degrees that are a bit more serious than mine? Well, it lowers the relative quality of the degree too. So the quality of the education is going down. The value of the degree itself in economic terms is being diluted by comparison. And the cost is going up astronomically as these schools get larger, as they appeal to more people, as the appearance of the necessity of the degree increases as this message is getting spread out. It's mostly been spread now. It's accepted knowledge that you must go to college if you want to live a successful and happy life. So the cost goes up. And it's assumed to be something that the government must spend money on. Well, if the government's giving you money, then the sky's the limit on the cost of application. More government money to the schools doesn't mean a decreased cost to the students. That's maybe a video for another time or a subject for your own research there. But the third one is the one I want to spend the most time on, and that's that you get to spend time around other intelligent people with similar interests to yours, and role models in academia, the professors, the teachers, and the career counselors and whatnot. This is the most blatantly untrue one, and the shadow of the falseness of this is actually what drove me away from higher education 3 or 4 years ago. When Philip Zimbardo wrote The Lucifer Effect and described the psychology of evil, how these things happen, you don't start with a bad person, usually. Sometimes it's true, and there absolutely are bad people out there. I don't want to go down that road. But what usually happens is you have, it's not bad apples in the barrel. You have bad barrels that will turn apples bad inside them. This is pretty well understood in social psychology. Good, ordinary people can be made to do terrible, awful things in the right circumstances, or if you want to put it another way, in the wrong circumstances. The incentives at university today, in colleges, cause good and decent ordinary people to lie to each other, to themselves, to sit back and be silent when they should speak, and very oftentimes to speak when they really ought to be silent. You could make a compelling argument on the grounds of the first 2 points, that surrounding yourselves by other people who hold you accountable, who will push you to do what you want to do when you maybe don't want to do the required work that you know you ought to do, but maybe don't have the motivation to do. Well, those grades, the pressure will make you do it and will push you to be successful. That's a valid argument. However, I think the baggage that comes along with this is harmful beyond measure. And I'm not saying that euphemistically or with casual exaggeration. I'm saying this with the history of the 20th century in the forefront of my mind. It's a well-known theological concept that all sins are considered to be equal. It doesn't mean that murder is just as bad as telling a lie, intrinsically. The idea is that little things can become bigger things down the road, and all little sins have the potential of becoming massive problems further down the road. The little lies that you have to tell yourself, that you have to hear other people tell you and still respect them on the other side in order to keep your head down and make it through college unscathed, without losing your job, without being ostracized, without being kicked out for some sort of hate crime or violation of some speech code or whatever, is neurologically damaging. As Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. The motivation and will to do what you know needs to be done in order to accomplish your tasks that you're relying on other people to push you to do, and that's good to do, by the way, relying on other people to push you to become who you want to be. That is better achieved at a job where certain things are expected of you, and you're punished if you don't do them, and you're rewarded if you do, maybe with a raise, maybe with, I don't know, cake or some special award, if you do a good job bagging, if you do a good job programming, whatever it is that you do. The free market will provide means, and I'm not trying to be some rabid capitalist here. This is just true, though. Businesses will provide that environment for you just as well as school, if not better. The lies that you have to tell yourself and others are so profoundly harmful. I cannot really overstate it. And if you haven't really studied the matter in depth, and here I absolutely recommend Jordan Peterson and Philip Zimbardo, both professors of psychology, both experts on the subject of morality and character, and both have come to somewhat similar conclusions on this matter. It is impossible to overstate how harmful the lying is, and the baggage that forces upon you so outweighs any benefit that you might think you're getting from spending time with intelligent people or role models. And this goes back to point one. There are intelligent people and role models on YouTube, online. You can go out and find these people. You can go to events and speeches. I got to meet Matthew Crawford, for example, at an event a year and a half, 2 years ago. One of the most extraordinary encounters I've had. I also got to meet Jack Donovan. I got this shirt sort of in connection with some friends of his. That didn't happen through college. That didn't happen through a university or academia. And yet these are two examples of absolutely brilliant minds that I got to not just like touch in some brief moment, but really interact with. I got to have drinks with Matthew Crawford at his own request because I asked a good question at a Q&A session, and he was interested in that, incidentally related to Jack Donovan, who basically I got to meet again at his request because I was participating in a cool way online in the community he was at the time involved in, and has since withdrawn from for other reasons of psychological health. Again, we could go into it for another time. So the idea that it makes your head a better place to live in and that improves yourself is completely irrelevant and a null point. You can do that on your own better, I would argue. The financial opportunities and job and career opportunities are still there at the moment, but we have every economic reason to believe that they won't be, that they're diminishing, and that the cost economically might outweigh the benefits. And third, it is so dramatically harmful to your will as a moral agent, to your values. If you are a Christian, for example, good luck making it through 90% of universities out there. You can hunt down those few that are still left and hope that they're still that way by the time you get through them. It probably won't be. That's not the trend. And as a final thing, people boycott industries and businesses that are going against their values, that are speaking out against their identity, some group that they're a part of. These universities look down on you with contempt and avarice. They do. They do. They look at you as consumers and tools and useful idiots. That is how they treat you. And I don't care what they say. Morality is a function of your actions, not your words, not your beliefs, your deeds. That is how they treat you. So, why give them money? There are plenty of ways you can live a good, successful, decent life. Now, it may not be as a lawyer. You might not be prestigious in the eyes of these academics who look down on you as being beneath them anyways or whatever. But you can live a happy, successful, and enjoyable, moral life that you can be proud of on your own grounds and in the eyes of your friends and the other people who you admire and share values with. So, am I saying don't ever go to school? No, that's a choice you have to make. But it is a defense of my position, not going to school, and an invitation to other people who maybe feel the same way. If you look at what schools are doing and believe, as Jordan Peterson and Dr. Duke Pasta believe, that the university has left the university, the body of knowledge and wisdom, and the Western academic intellectual tradition no longer resides within the borders. And not just it exists outside, it is no longer inside those borders. Then fuck them. Don't go.